Everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'll be revisiting the Mahabharata yet again, and today I'll be focusing on the character Arjuna. So I have mentioned Arjuna in other stories that I've done for different characters of the Mahabharata. So today we'll mainly be focusing on the main defining moments of his life and uh, which one of these moments made him become the person that he ultimately ended up being. So, in the Mahabharata in general, a lot of stories do involve Arjuna. So, if I sat down and talked about all of them, this video would be like a day long. So, I'll just be focusing on the main ones. So, to start off, he was the third of the five Pandava brothers. So, the Mahabharata, the main pretext of the Mahabharata is that it's a war between these two cousins, the Kauravas, which were 100 brothers, and the Pandavas, which were five brothers. So, Arjuna was the third of the Pandava brothers. He was conceived by a mantra that his mother, Queen Kunti, had used to summon Lord Indra. So basically, his mother had the power, this power that if she said this mantra, she could summon any god and get a son from him. So technically, he's the son of Lord Indra and Kunti, but he was raised by a king that Kunti had married, King Pandu. So when he became of about the right age at around puberty, he, along with the rest of his brothers and his cousins the Kauravas, went to Guru Dronacharya to learn the art of warfare. So Arjuna showed a great affinity for archery, which Drona was very impressed by, believing that if Arjuna continued training the way he was and if he taught Arjuna everything that he knew, he could become the best archer in the world. This made the eldest two Kauravas, Duryodhana and Dusasana, very jealous because they thought that Drona was basically favoring all the Pandavas and they thought that he was giving them more partial treatment and better education than they were getting. So actually, Duryodhana had went up to Guru Drona and told him, "Listen, you're not teaching us all equally. We think you favored the Pandavas more." And Drona said, "That's not true at all, and that it'll be proved who actually mastered what I taught them because we'll have some sort of a test." So Drona basically did prove that his education to all was equal when he did this archery test for all of the princes. So he asked them all what they saw. So what he did was he set up this wooden bird in a tree, and the wooden bird had an eye, and he said, "Okay, I want everyone to target the bird's eye and shoot it with a bow and arrow." So before each student went up and actually attempted to shoot the arrow, he asked all of them, "What do you see?" So most of the time what would happen, he would ask the student and the student would say, "Oh, I see the bird and I see the trees surrounding the bird and I see the sky and everything." And Drona wouldn't even let them shoot the arrow. He'd be like, "Nope, next." So this went on and on. Everyone kept giving him the wrong answer. And then finally it was Arjuna's turn. And he asked Arjuna, "Okay, what do you see?" And Arjuna said, "I see only the bird's eye and nothing else." And then Drona was really impressed by his answer. So he said, "Okay, then go ahead and shoot." And he obviously made his shot. And this really impressed Drona, and he did truly believe that, well, he could be potentially the best archer in the world. So Arjuna's skills in archery actually won him his future wife Draupadi's hand in marriage as well. And later, when they became exiled into a forest for 13 years because they lost their kingdom to a game of dice that they played with their cousins. And his skills in archery helped him kill many demons and win many divine weapons from the gods while they were all in exile. It was him, the Pandavas, and the rest of his brothers and Draupadi that were sent to exile. So after the 13 years of exile, the Kauravas were supposed to give back the kingdom of Hastinapur, which was the Pandavas' rightful kingdom, back to them so they could rule over it. However, they refused to, and this was the main event that also started the Mahabharata because the Pandavas had to fight to win back their kingdom. So on the first day of the war, Drona was actually, in general, Drona was on the Kaurava side, and so was King Bhishma, who was basically kind of a grandfather figure to both the Kauravas and the Pandavas. So Arjuna sees both Guru Drona and King Bhishma on the Kaurava side. And then he basically in his mind he's like, well, I can't kill them. Like they're my elders. They helped me grow up and become the person I am. Then he needs to be explained about his like dharma or duty to fight the war by his charioteer, who is Lord Krishna. So Krishna is actually he's a god, and he's a different like incarnation of one of the incarnations of Lord Vishnu, who is one of the three main Hindu gods. And he shows so Lord Krishna basically shows Arjuna his true divine form, his like all-encompassing form. And through his like showing Arjuna his true divine form, he shows him that the entire cosmos pretty much resides within him. So like basically he's like in control of what ultimately happens with everyone. And so in doing so, he shows Arjuna that by fighting his elders, he's not doing anything wrong. He's just following his duty or his dharma of fighting for his kingdom, of which the Pandavas are actually the more rightful and more superior rulers than the Kauravas. So ultimately, Krishna basically shows that he is controlling the life and death of everyone. So even if Arjuna did end up killing Drona or Bhishma, it's not him that's actually like doing it. It's kind of all predetermined, and all humans are basically like, I guess, they're just carrying out this ultimate grand plan that's supposed to happen anyways. So this is one of the pinnacle scenes of the Mahabharata. It's like a big like revelation scene, and it's also one of the pinnacle like scenes of the Bhagavad Gita, which is another Indian religious text. So eventually, Arjuna gets convinced to continue fighting the war. So eventually, the Pandavas won the war, and they ruled over Hastinapur for the next like about 36 years, and then they decided it was time for them to renounce the world, hand over the kingdom to the next rightful ruler, and go on to Svargalok, or heaven. So they were all climbing this mountain, Mount Menu, to go up to Svargaloka, but they all actually fell down one by one to hell, which was Narkaloka. And this is because each of them had these like very, even though like overall they were good people, they had very specific flaws or character faults that always kind of shadowed a major aspect of their life. So Arjuna's was that he was always very jealous of other talented warriors and archers, and he wanted to be the best. And I actually do touch on this a little bit when I talk about when I talked about the characters Karna and Ekalavya, which were previous videos that I had made. And Arjuna, basically, he was always jealous. He wanted to be the best. He always saw everybody as competition. And that was his biggest flaw, which made him go to hell for some time. So the Pandavas did not stay in hell forever. They ultimately did go to heaven, but their punishment was that they had to spend some amount of time in hell to, like, kind of atone for the faults that they had. So they all spent some time in Narkaloka, like I said, but ultimately made it to heaven. Now we'll be moving on to the analysis portion of the video. So Arjuna was overall a very dharmic and just king and man, and he took very good care of his subjects when he was ruling Hastinapur. However, like I mentioned, his biggest flaw was his jealousy slash insecurity. So I do like touch on this in my other videos related to Karna and Ekalavya. And there's actually an article I was reading by Devdutt Patnaik. I'll link it in the description below. And he basically kind of lists the reasons why Arjuna was very insecure and how that was like shadowed a big part of his life. And there's like various reasons there. So if you guys want to check out and go more into depth on those, they're in the article, which I've linked below. But I'll just touch on three main ones that really stood out to me. So one was that his own father, Lord Indra, was also very insecure. So Lord Indra was basically the king of all the gods, and he's kind of like the equivalent to Zeus in Greek mythology. And so Lord Indra was always insecure about someone else, like, overthrowing him and taking over his throne. And maybe some of that insecurity also got transferred to Arjuna, and he was always very insecure. He always saw other archers or warriors as a threat. And he always felt like he needed to step up, like be one level above them. And he actually never killed any of his Kaurava cousins in the war. His other brother Bhima actually did. So to me, that just kind of shows that like even though he was very like much he was very scared of the fact that I don't want to kill any of the Kauravas. He never actually, or I don't want to kill any of my elders. He never actually did it. Like someone else did, and so I was just like, well, you had that thought process in mind, and even after being explained that it's like it doesn't make you a terrible person, it's your duty. You still, I feel like he still kind of found a way to like not get his hands dirty, and still kind of keep his not get his hands dirty and keep his like name clean. And last but not least, he goes to hell because, of his whole philosophy of the fact that like he always needs to one up everyone and his insecurity and jealousy and being very boastful even and proud. And I guess we see examples of this like when, for example, when he was fighting or when he was in the Swayamvar, kind of like the Bachelorette, I guess, for a princess, when he was trying to win Draupadi's hand in marriage. Garden was also at the Swayamvar, and he was just as wonderful an archer as Arjuna, maybe even better, and that made Arjuna very insecure and jealous as well. And so ultimately both Draupadi and Arjuna kind of ended up insulting Karna by saying, "Oh, you're not a warrior. You're not of the warrior caste. You shouldn't even be here." Even though he was in skill, he was just as qualified. And also, I mentioned Arjuna's jealousy in the story of Ekalavya, where he couldn't handle the fact that Ekalavya was a better archer than him. And to him, he's like, "Well, my teacher promised me I'd be the best archer, so he can't be the best archer." And Ekalavya had to end up cutting off his right thumb. So this was the story of Arjuna and the analysis on him. I hope you guys all enjoyed it, and if you guys have any other suggestions for me, please leave it in the comments below. If you want me to delve further into the Mahabharata or explore some different aspect of Indian mythology, or even explore any other myths from any other countries and cultures in general. So I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.